For most of us, the idea of owning a country estate is just a pipe dream. But not for Richard Cable and Jane Cunard. They want to restore a derelict 18th century country house in the heart of Warwickshire.
For me, I can't think of a lot else as a home and a place to live that I'd want to be in.
See, you can't get more posh than this.
I could get used to it, I think.
Oh, I bet you could. But to do it, Richard is going to have to hold down his full-time job in local government, leaving Jane to project manage the entire renovation herself.
It probably is a little bit ambitious, but I still think it's achievable.
But with no experience, saving this historic house is a challenge that simply couldn't be bigger.
Keep going. Whoa, go on. Oh, now!
Jane's inexperience in working on a project of this sort is actually starting to show up.
Whoa, what the hell?
I've now spent the entire budget. That's it, gone.
So we're in the West Midlands, driving through the middle of the countryside, in the middle of nowhere, trying to find what is supposed to be the beautiful country house. In the depths of rural Warwickshire lies the historic country estate of Coombe Abbey. And on the edge of its grounds regally sits a house amongst 8 acres of land called the Menagerie. It was used over 200 years ago as a hunting lodge and private zoo by the aristocratic owners of the abbey. Morning, Jane.
Good morning.
How are you? Nice to meet you.
I'm
Are you
fine.
well?
Yes, thank you, and you?
This is a wonderful house, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Absolutely stunning. And what do you know about the building?
Well, it was built in about the 1770s by the very wealthy family who lived at what's now the Coombe Hotel. And it was built by Henry Holland in conjunction with Capability Brown, who did the landscaping.
And Henry Holland is a very, very well-known, well-respected 18th century architect.
Yes.
I mean, to have Capability Brown doing the landscape, and he is
Yeah,
the best landscape architect we've probably ever had in this country. Besides the Menagerie, Henry Holland designed many grand buildings, including the original Royal Opera House. Richard and Jane bought the Menagerie a year ago for just £165,000 and want to save it from 30 years of dereliction, restoring all its original features. There's a lot to do in here, isn't there? All this plasterwork, which is, I mean, it is wonderfully old.
Yeah.
It's fabulous, but you've got your work cut out, haven't you?
Yes. Well, we are still wondering whether we can save this plasterwork.
It's one of those things you've just got to see how you go. I mean, that's a bad area, obviously. You've just got to start hacking back to see how much is just going to fall away. I mean, this is pretty terrible, to be honest. But it'll be a shame, you're right, to lose too much of it.
Yeah.
You want to keep that sense of history in here.
Yeah, you do, really.
They've already spent £100,000 in the last year, completing major structural work, and have another 100 grand left for the interiors. Most of the downstairs is virtually derelict, though upstairs, rebuilding work has finally begun. Is this a dream bedroom for you? Is this what you've always wanted?
For me it is, because I've never had an ensuite.
Never?
Never. I must have an ensuite just once in my life.
You've got to have an ensuite.
Yeah.
That's a bit of luxury, isn't it, for you?
It is.
The restoration of the 235-year-old Menagerie back to its former glory is quite simply the project of a lifetime. The distinctive hexagonal room will be transformed into a formal living room, decorated with traditional Georgian colours and furnishings. Across the hallway and through the panel library will be a key space for the family, a beautiful country kitchen. The large windows will flood the room with light and provide views across the gardens. Upstairs will be 4 bedrooms and a family bathroom. The grand hexagonal room will be transformed into a luxurious guest room. But Jane and Richard have decided to make the central bedroom their own, with Jane's much-desired ensuite bathroom, and far-reaching views stretching across their historic Capability Brown designed gardens and the park's fishing lake. This is a complex restoration, and Jane is a first-time project manager. While I admire her bravery, I'm fearful of her inexperience. What about your deadline? You know, this is an ambitious build, there's a lot of work here. It's a beautiful building that does need that level of care to it. When do you expect to be finished?
We might possibly, with a push, get in here for August.
Right.
So somewhere between August and Christmas.
But I think even the Christmas deadline's ambitious. I think there's a lot to do here.
Do you?
I do. I think August is impossible and Christmas is very ambitious.
Oh, not worked with me before.
This tight 5-month deadline shows a worrying underestimation of the work and planning involved. Jane could very quickly develop a 250-year-old headache.
Why are you doing this?
Security's a big issue for me, and I love the thought that I can leave this to my kids and they are secure. I think that's why I have difficulty seeing myself in it. You know, so I'm not like the lady of the manor. I just think I should be doing the cleaning, you know. I haven't quite got the right persona of the house, so.
Just 12 miles up the road is Richard and Jane's current 5-bedroom family home. They're hoping its sale will help pay for a new life at the Menagerie.
Richard,
Hello, good
nice
to
to
meet
meet
you.
you. How are you? Heard a lot about you.
All good, I hope.
Can I come and see your house?
Please come in.
Thank you very much.
What about the finances for all of this? You know, how are you managing to fund the project while you've still got your house here?
Well, this house is carrying the burden of all the loan, really, because we've raised a bridging loan against this house.
So every month that the building project continues, you're paying interest still on that loan?
Yeah,
And I'm assuming that's just coming out of the building budget?
it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
So that-
£3,000 a month.
£3,000 interest per month. So you're under huge pressure here, aren't you, to sell this house?
Yeah.
Is this a risk worth taking?
If we pull it off.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think for me, I can't think of a lot else as a home and a place to live that I'd want to be in. I have these sort of grand ideas. It'd be a fantastic house for grandchildren, that kind of thing. You know, sort of imagine them all getting really excited to come to the big house, you know, for Christmas or whenever, or for summer holidays and all that kind of stuff.
Richard and Jane have a fantastic dream to save a very special building and to create a beautiful home they can keep in the family for generations to come. But it's a complex renovation financed by a massive loan costing over £3,000 a month. Now, for a seasoned pro, this would be a testing project. For an inexperienced novice, it's one hell of a challenge.
Richard and Jane are restoring this dilapidated 18th century country house in rural Warwickshire. They want to turn it into their dream family home for generations to come. While Richard works full-time to pay for the loan funding the renovation, first-time project manager Jane will oversee the build entirely by herself. She's employed a team of builders in the hope of getting it finished by Christmas, just 5 months away. It's a massive task.
It probably is a little bit ambitious, but I still think it's achievable.
The Menagerie, though, is no ordinary building. It's part of the very fabric of our nation's heritage.
Now, the building was designed in 1771 by the British architect Henry Holland, and it was designed for the Craven family who used to live on the Coombe Abbey estate. Now, the building, which is called the Menagerie, is an exact replica of the menagerie that was in the grounds of Versailles, which is now completely demolished. And the use of the building was for the family to stand there on the first floor windows and look out at all the animals that they would keep on the estate. This is a very historic and significant building.
It's July, and Jane's first big job on this restoration is to oversee the garden being cleared. Back to the original capability brown design. For 2 weeks, the clock is slowly turning back, and for the first time in 30 years, the lake can be seen from the house.
Looks fantastic. Looks really good.
The historic design of the garden is once more revealed.
This is just incredible now, to see the house so clearly from right at the edge of the lake. It's absolutely stunning. And what a back garden. It's not bad, is it?
It's good, isn't it? Because actually the trees are really close to the house. I didn't realise actually what the aspect was like until we'd actually opened that. It was like suddenly completely opened right down to the lake. It's just amazing.
And actually what I think is fantastic about it is the fact that Capability Brown, you know, the famous landscape architect, would have had all of this cleared and all of that just being grass and lawn down at the lake edge. You can start to get a feel of what it could be like.
Yeah.
For the first time.
Yeah, well, this is roughly how we think it's supposed to be. And that tree is about 500 years old. Wow. So that was here originally. Yeah.
Picture perfect, really.
Yeah.
Well, when it's finished.
Yeah. It's not bad now, actually, is it?
That's pretty good.
It's not bad.
It is pretty good.
Now Richard and Jane can give the children their first taste of life as posh country folk.
Right, Harry,
Yeah?
do you want to hold the maggots?
No.
I just would never have imagined that I would own a house where I've got boating and fishing rights. It's incredible.
It's going to be good fun.
I want to catch an octopus.
Catch an octopus, yes. It's really
It'd be brilliant to catch an octopus, wouldn't it?
First time on the lake, isn't it?
How did they get all this water to go in here? Did it just rain?
Oh, it's quite nice to be out in a boat, isn't it?
This is lovely. Look at that.
But for Richard and Jane, this new life may take a little getting used to.
I like this.
You ready, Harry?
No, I'm not going to ever put it back in.
Right, he's on.
Good.
He's in. Oh! What is it? It's an octopus! Ah! I can't control it! Oh, he got away.
I bet the worm fell off.
The dream of country living can only really happen when the menagerie is eventually transformed. The first stage will be the replastering of the crumbling walls, Jane's first big project managing challenge. To get a decent finish, enormous amounts of plaster will have to be applied.
Those muscles.
Jane has decided to use a very expensive traditional plaster, a thick lime-based solution mixed in with horse's hair.
So the hair will bind it all together a bit more. Main disadvantage with lime is it's very labour intensive.
With each wall requiring so much work, literally hundreds of buckets are delivered and applied, costing thousands of pounds. Jane estimated this would be a 2-week job, but after a month, less than half the house is finished.
All the plaster that's here in these buckets, all of that has gone into plastering 3 rooms. I had 10,000 in the budget to plaster the whole house. So I'm going to exceed this portion of my budget by maybe quadruple, 4 times as much as I expected.
To spend more than a third of the entire budget just on plastering is alarming. Project managing a specialist renovation like this requires forward planning, and I'm worried that costs are starting to spiral out of control.
The cost of the window has surprised me, and Neil said it was 537, I think, just for the oak. It also took him 3 days of time, so obviously the total cost of the windows, £800–900. And that's the sort of thing as project manager I should really have thought through.
Any building project is difficult, but throw in the fact that this is a very complicated historic restoration, and you can multiply any problem 100-fold. Now, Jane is giving this project everything, but she's struggling, which is a massive worry because, if I'm honest, this build has barely started. Morning. Hi, Jane, how are you? Nice to see you. Richard,
Hi,
you're here.
Yes, yeah.
Why aren't you at work?
Holiday.
Holiday style?
Yep.
So we look at the kitchen.
I think you'll be disappointed, George.
I'm going to be disappointed. Why's that?
What's happened?
I can see why.
Yeah.
Not much has happened at all.
Got a
has it?
cafeteria.
Canteen, yeah.
The side cafe.
Yes, that cafe. Yeah.
And this will be, one day, a stunning kitchen. But why hasn't it moved on?
We're working top down, really.
Well, this is where all the plastering's been done.
Yes.
Smell that.
Well, this has moved on a lot. Because it looks to me like there's about, what, 1.5 inches, 2 inches of plaster on that wall.
Yeah, 4 layers of plaster.
4 layers
Yeah.
of plaster.
Yeah, it is amazingly labour intensive as well. You've got to keep working lime, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got to keep working it, and then you've got to put one layer on, let it dry, put the next layer on, let that dry. So you've just got to go around constantly.
Yeah.
And just looking at the number of pots that are out there, it's mind-boggling, really.
You want to see the empties that we've used in the bedroom?
The build budget is solely funded by a huge loan taken out against the family home. But costs are overrunning, and there's now only £50,000 of the budget left. It's time for Jane to face the facts.
Now, just looking at the build as it is, something like the plastering, it's a prime example, though, isn't it, on a historic building like that, to when you want to respect it and get the materials absolutely right.
Yeah.
It costs you a lot more time, a lot more money. Simple as that.
Can do. Yeah, it can do.
And actually it's a choice we've made rather than one I think's been foisted. I think it's a preference.
I suppose the point I'm really making is that, you know, with the limited project management experience you've got and costing experience, if you have other examples of costs inflating like that, you're going to be in massive trouble, aren't you?
Yeah.
If you think, right, OK, Christmas is the final deadline for you as you see it, have you sat there and thought, right, I've got 50 grand left, let's take out the loan repayments from now until Christmas, let's take the salaries for the 2 guys on site from now till Christmas, and let's get a cost in for 3 or 4 major pieces of work like kitchen decorating.
I did do that.
You did?
So it's a jolly good idea.
I did do it.
And
it didn't look very nice, so I screwed it up.
So we've gone back to the other approach.
That's absolutely true, I did do it. I do feel mildly hysterical now. But only because you've been asking awkward questions.
Joking aside, Jane needs to start focusing, or she'll be heading for a huge overspend. The pressure is now on to sell their home and release some extra cash. But after 3 months on the market and no viewings, it still hasn't been sold. And chasing estate agents is a big distraction from project managing.
I drove past over the weekend. I noticed it's not displayed in the window anymore. I don't want to hear this, John. I don't care if other people sell their houses.
The real concern now is that this project is starting to slip. With less than 12 weeks till the Christmas deadline, the Menagerie still has no plumbing, no electrics, no kitchen, and not a single worker on site.
Just wondering if you can let me know when you're likely to come back to the Menagerie. It's difficult when people don't show up. Hello? Hello? I don't really like to suggest that maybe people should be doing more or work harder or anything like that. I think how I'm feeling at the moment is that I've got a lot on my plate. Right, you need your packed lunchbox and you don't need to take toys today, Harry, I don't think.
Jane simply has too many demands on her time.
Come on, hold your hand, hurry up.
I introduce you to your new teacher.
And she's struggling
Lovely
in
day.
her role.
I'll see you later. There is a lot to be done. Some days I come in and I go, no way, I'm going to be in for Christmas.
But Richard is determined to move into a completed house.
The important things for me is that the house must be finished when we move in, that we're in by Christmas. I've always been clear about that, and I said that because Jane and the builders have said half-jokingly, you could always move in at this point and live upstairs, and I've always been, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going in unfinished.
Behind schedule and overstretched, Jane desperately needs help. The restoration of a building like the Menagerie is an unforgiving project for the inexperienced. It's only 8 weeks till the Christmas deadline, and this build should be a hive of activity. But at 9:30 in the morning, there's only one tradesman on site, Neil the joiner.
Morning, Jane.
Morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
How's it going? You all right?
All right.
I mean, let's just have a think about where you are. You've got 8 weeks, haven't you? You want to be in here by Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, have you planned out the next 8 weeks? Just in terms of who's going to be here, what job they're going to do, when they're going to finish it by.
Yeah, I did do some projections and then I threw them away because they were a bit depressing. And I think in my projections, I think we were in for sort of the beginning of March.
Really?
But then I didn't really know I don't know what I'm doing, so I sort of look at the oil tank and think, right, he's got to build a plinth for the oil tank, that's going to take him, I don't know, a week. Whereas in reality, it might take him 2 days.
Do you mind if I have a chat with Neil? Should we bring
No,
Neil
of
up?
course.
Do you mind?
No,
do you mind?
of
Right,
course.
just stay there. The reason why I'm saying it is because he's one person who's here for you a lot, isn't he?
Yeah.
Neil? Neil, can I steal you for a minute?
Jane finds it hard to talk schedules with her tradesman, so I want to help her finally get some much-needed answers.
I'm going to have a chat with you and Jane. Come on. Do you think you could do this house in 8 weeks?
No, I can't see it being done not now, not in 8 weeks. There's still too much to do.
Jane!
We've got no toilets yet. We need a toilet. There's no heating yet.
Let's just think about it. Because I just want to help you do this, if I can. OK, so you've got plumbers.
I've been expecting the plumber to come for 2 weeks.
Right.
So I presume he's caught on another job.
Have you spoken to him?
No.
But the fact is that if you don't call him, then somebody else might. And you might just think, oh, well, I'll go into that other job for a couple of days and I'll come back to Jane next week. And this is your house. You've got to get it done. What's his name, Mr. Plumber?
Dave.
Dave. I think what we should do is call Dave and say, Dave, we're in dire need here, mate. Join us. Or join her, I should say. Where's your mate?
Keith's the builder.
Keith, that's what I was
Keith's the
thinking.
builder.
Keith.
He gives me hands if I need any heavy things.
Where's Keith?
Don't ask.
With builders, you've got to be on the phone to them all the time. And you just can't assume that someone's going to turn up. You're just being far too nice. You're being really lovely and thinking, oh, well, I don't want to nag him and he's done a nice job and it's all really lovely and I'll just, I'll ring him in a few weeks' time. Do you know what I mean?
You're right.
The people who hassle the most, they'll go to. If you're not hassling them, they won't come back. I understand the love and respect that Richard and Jane are showing towards the Menagerie, but ultimately, Jane is the project manager. She has to be the voice of authority to push and drive the project forward. Without it, no restoration can succeed, and no dream can be a reality.
First-time project manager Jane Cunard has worked hard renovating this historic, dilapidated country house.
It's going to hit the light.
With the moving-in deadline just 8 weeks away, Jane's partner Richard dreams of moving out of their old home and beginning a new life at the Menagerie.
I am very keen to get in there. I kind of feel increasingly like I don't belong in this house anymore. And I really want to be there, see those views either way and just kind of feel this is my place, and I think about how different it will be from what I'm used to. That's a little pixie's pipe.
What's the pixies?
Pixies are tiny little people that live in the garden.
But with the build now weeks behind schedule, Jane has decided on a new plan. She's going to spend all the remaining budget in a desperate attempt to complete the build on time. The plumbers are finally back on site. And a new heating system is quickly installed.
It's really good seeing it come together. I mean, it's really hard work, but it is exciting. It does feel like home now.
The floors aren't ready yet, but still Jane rushes through the delivery of a new kitchen.
I don't know if I can manage this on my own. Beautiful wooden top surfaces. Fab.
A team of painters are hired and are paid to work day and night. It's a massive, costly effort. With all the extra labour, the build is now surging forward, and it's critical that as project manager, Jane is there overseeing every detail. But anxious to hit her deadline, she's moved her attention to the finishes and getting them just right.
I've got a real conundrum at the house because it's a Georgian house, trying to sort out lighting because they wouldn't have had any lighting. So I couldn't decide whether to go totally modern or to go for period pieces. And I think in reality I'm going to do a bit of both. I think I'm going to take that one today.
That's great.
Yeah, because I can see that would just work really well.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
With Jane busy off-site, on-site there's no organisation or leadership, and frustrations mount.
Keep going. Whoa, go on. Oh, now.
It's a very chaotic place to be right now.
Whoa, what the hell?
Everyone's doing a bit of everything. People are putting plaster up, they're painting and scraping back when I'm trying to sand floors.
I love working in these confined little spaces.
I think really what it is Jane hasn't got a complete idea of how work has to be done.
She could do with cutting back on some of her trades until a later date, probably remove herself from the equation, employ a project manager and see the bill come on.
With Jane's project managing ability in doubt, the situation comes to a head.
I fell out basically with Neil, the joiner, and we've now parted company.
I don't generally argue with customers at all. I mean, I try and do exactly what they want, but it just got to the point that there was just too much trying to get done, and it's just impossible to do.
He doesn't agree with the way I'm doing it and the way I'm conducting it, but it's my build. I'm paying his wages, and if he doesn't do the things that I ask him to do, then, you know, it's untenable for us to carry on.
With the moving-in deadline getting close, Richard wants to make sure that important details haven't been overlooked.
What is that? We are having an extractor fan in here somewhere, aren't we? I don't see one in here. Where's the shaver socket?
Oh, he hasn't given you one.
Because we need them, because it's not even... I know I don't look like...
It's not here, yeah.
Without a socket, how am I ever going to spare to with my beard?
I've never noticed you shave.
We don't have any sockets in here, do we, in this particular room? On the floor? No. I'm just wondering about how do we vacuum up here?
Yep.
Because there's no sockets here either.
Yeah, it's okay, I'll take your point, there's no sockets, it's going to make vacuuming very difficult, so...
It looks like he's set up some bed head there.
To have lights by the bed head, I suppose.
God, why aren't we up the wall?
I don't know, I really don't know the answer to that.
I think there's an enormous amount to do between now and Christmas, so I am worried about the progress of actually achieving that. I'm not entirely sure that we'll get in by Christmas.
Throwing what money they had left at the build has failed to get the Menagerie back on schedule. It's proved to be a costly gamble.
There is no money really left in my pot now. I've now spent the entire budget. I see it gone.
It's been 6 months since Jane started this build, and she's missed her ambitious Christmas deadline to move in. But I'm pleased to see that at last there's some real progress at the Menagerie.
Jane, hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, and you?
This room's great, isn't it? Really
Well,
great.
Yeah. It's very nice, isn't it?
Get a real sense of what this building was about when it was used originally, don't you?
Yeah.
Real sense
it's a
of that
grand
history.
feeling room, isn't it?
Very grand, very beautifully proportioned with stunning views in all different directions. It's great.
This complex restoration was always going to be an incredible challenge. The budget was funded by a massive loan, But with the money now gone, I want to know what the plan is to finish this build.
I've now completely run out of budget.
You've got no money.
I've got no money, and I had to go overdrawn to pay everybody last Friday. So I've had to increase my overdraft this week in anticipation of paying everybody on Friday. And then the following week, with a wing and a prayer, my advance mortgage might come through, which is another 35,000.
Right.
And that, I think, will finish it. So I've gone 35 over my original budget.
Now, your loan repayment on the mortgage was about £3,000 a month, if I remember before.
Yeah.
How much has that increased by now?
By about another 200. It's about 3,200 a month now.
Just keeps rising, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You need to sell that house quickly and clear some of that debt.
Yeah.
As fast as possible, really.
Yeah.
So what's the new deadline for moving into here?
February half term, around about the 10th of February.
Yeah, 10, so what, that's about 5 weeks from now.
Yeah.
In 5 weeks, there's going to be a big, big push and challenge to get it there, isn't it?
It will, and I think it won't be completely finished, which is the one thing Richard wanted. And it won't be.
So how does Richard feel about moving into a place that's not finished now?
I think he sort of senses now that that's just the way it's going to go. I think he's resigned to it, I suppose.
Yeah, he's just got to accept it.
Yeah, he has to accept it, I think.
Yeah.
But we need to be here now. The kids have got interests locally. Harry goes to school in Brinklow. So it would make sense for us to move in.
This is an incredibly ambitious project to take on as your first big property development. What have you learned from it, do you think, so far?
I've learned an awful lot. And I think the biggest hurdle for me, because of my personality, is being organised. I tend to be very chaotic. I do a lot of things last minute. But generally speaking, as the build has gone on, I have got more organised. But I really would like to pull it off. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we're finished in 5 weeks.
Hopefully you'll get in. Fingers crossed, 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
I sense a new steeliness in Jane, and I'm pleased. Armed with an extra £35,000, she needs to watch every penny if she's to finish everything off, and have the high-quality detailing she set her heart on. Her first decision is a good one. She decides to manage and organise this project on-site a lot more, and keep across every aspect of the build.
Morning! Morning, Sylvia! So basically, we reckon it's the rest of today to do the ensuite.
Yeah, that'll be ready for boarding in the ensuite in there after today. I'll get that done today.
Good. All right, thanks, Smith.
Okay.
Doing all right?
Yeah, it's going really well. Thanks, yeah. Hopefully by the end of today we'll have the undercoat done.
Oh,
Definitely.
brilliant. Good. Feels like a kitchen already, doesn't it?
The results are immediate.
Look at that! Did it sound like it cheered then? It went, woo! That's fab.
Soon, the plumbing and tiling is complete. This extraordinary house is finally becoming a home.
Oh, it's nearly ready, Harry.
I want to put my beds here, so my desk goes here and I can see through the window.
So you can see out the window?
Yeah.
I could have a little bed built in the cupboard, like in our last house, and you could sleep in the cupboard.
No.
You excited?
Yeah, I'm really, really, really excited.
Let's get you home to our old house. Not many more times now.
With the work going well, Jane now has time to step back and plan the final finishes. So I've brought her to Coombe Abbey for inspiration and to get a feel for the historic world the Menagerie was once part of.
So Jane, I want to show you this room. See if it gives you a bit of inspiration.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing.
Wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, everything,
Not
everywhere
plastic.
that you look, whether it be paintings, whether it's the wallpaper, whether it's the four-poster bed, everything is sort of indulgent and sort of over the top, but beautifully over the top.
Good grief. Can I get on the bed then?
Yeah, go on. As long as I can get on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
See, you can't get more posh than this.
No, this is all right, isn't it?
When you were in the house, in the Menagerie,
Yeah.
you said that you actually sometimes felt like you should be the cleaner for the place.
Yeah.
It's the sort of rags to riches.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel being in somewhere like this now? Do you feel comfortable in it?
I could get used to it, I think.
Oh, I bet you could.
I could.
I bet you could.
It is lovely.
What about things like the wallpaper and colours and finishes and everything?
Well, I would like drapes that you can draw, though. And I'm looking into doing that.
Very romantic.
Yeah.
What do you think Richard would think of this?
He'd love the original features of the room. I don't know whether he'd think the spread was too much for him. I think he probably would.
What I find really exciting is that house, the Menagerie, is starting to come to life again. You're making it into a home. It's the nice part of the project, isn't it?
I can never see, in my mind's eye, a finished product. I find that very difficult.
Right.
I don't carry colours very well, and I think because it is going to be my home, it's important that I do it, and that Richard makes decisions with me, because I don't want a show home. You know, I want somewhere that feels like my home.
I think the luxurious world of Coombe Abbey has left Jane full of ideas. But on her budget, she knows she'll have to work hard at knocking down prices.
What's the best you could do if I bought cash? OK. Yeah, no, that'd be really good.
Jane does her homework and sources traditional soft furnishings.
They're special curtains. They're tailor-made, they're going into a very special building. Jane, the foresight she's had to pick the fabrics that actually go with the period of the house is fantastic.
And a 100-mile round trip ensures Jane gets a very special bargain in the shape of her very own four-poster bed.
The bed is being made to an authentic Georgian design, so I'm really excited to see it. It'd be nice. Basically, I need 90 inches length on the curtains.
Yeah.
And then do you supply them with rails for drapes and things?
I've been doing a little bit with Tudor roses as well.
Yeah, that's nice.
They look quite nice in the centre of it.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
After 7 long months, the budget for the renovation of the Menagerie has run out. It's not completely finished, but Jane takes the plunge and decides to move the family in, with a little help from their friends.
Basically, it's all hands on deck, and we're all just racing against the clock now to get there on time.
Trying to get everything moved in just one day is proven to be chaotic.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Look at it. You can't even open the door.
Bother.
And Richard's still not convinced that this is a good move.
There seems to be no drawers, there's no handles, there's nothing.
No, we can't open and shut drawers and kitchen cupboards very well.
Boxes everywhere.
Yeah, we can live out of boxes for a bit, can't we? It's not impossible.
But they've come too far to go back now.
Help! I'm stuck! You are going to drop it, aren't you?
That's why I said I'm going to drop it.
After a long, hard day, at last, they've done it. And amongst the mess, Richard resigns himself to whatever home comforts are on offer.
Cheers, Beck. That's me done for the night.
They may have moved in, but the Menagerie still isn't finished. With their old house not sold, Richard and Jane's new life and future isn't yet secure. After 7 difficult months project managing this historic restoration, Jane finally moved her family in, although it wasn't quite finished. I'm looking forward to seeing if it's now complete, and if they've settled into life at their very own country manor.
Good morning.
Hi, George.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Hi.
Well?
Yeah.
Is it all done then?
Almost.
Come on then, let's have a look.
The interior of the Menagerie has come alive.
What a transformation when you think of what the space was like before.
Yeah, it looks nice, doesn't it?
Absolutely beautiful. You must be thrilled.
Yeah, no, I'm really
Lovely,
pleased.
yeah. This is a really good
lovely
room.
kitchen.
It's got such a lovely feel to it. There's lovely proportions. And the style that you've gone for, which is obviously very, very country, very traditional, is just ideal for this house, isn't it? And is this going to be the perfect country kitchen, you know, baking cakes?
Yeah, I think a lot of the living will take place in the kitchen.
Absolutely perfect.
The country house grandeur continues throughout. The period detailing is spot on. And they've really gone to town in the glorious hexagonal living room.
All the finishes everywhere are such a high quality. Did you spend a lot of time researching the style of all these finishes for the building?
Yeah. Things like the carpet, for example, is a replica of carpet in London in an 18th century house.
That's impressive.
And Richard, are you proud of Jane for managing to do it?
Amazing. Really, really incredible. And then bring it all together, it's some achievement, definitely.
Upstairs is the perfect mix of the old and the new. The family bathroom is pure luxury.
The chandelier in the bathroom, super posh. I mean, you must surely feel like the lord and lady of the manor now with a house like this.
Certainly feel very privileged, yeah.
While the guest room is a step back in time, a truly romantic space. The master bedroom is an elegant combination of contemporary and Georgian decor, but the bathroom is ultra-modern.
I'm pleased you've got your ensuite.
I'm pleased,
It's really good.
And because I sleep this
That's
side of
nice.
the bed, I think it should be mine, and I think you can just trot along to the main bathroom.
OK, that's great.
The renovation of the menagerie was financed by a loan, taken out against Richard and Jane's other family home. But to finish the build, Jane has spent more than her original £200,000 budget.
It will come in, I think, around about 270,000 all in.
So it's going to come in about overall 70,000 more than your original budget.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what about your house? Have you sold it yet or not?
No, we haven't sold it, but we've had a lot more viewings just recently. Things have picked up. And we've had a couple that really love it, and ours is the house they definitely want to buy, but they haven't sold their own property.
That's a lot more positive. And then what's the financial situation when that house is sold? What happens then?
Will it clear all the
We can
debt?
clear the big loan.
All of it?
All of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
You'd be mortgage-free
That's the idea, yeah.
in this house?
In this house, mortgage-free.
It's incredible when you think about what you've done with the budget that you had. I mean, I know £275,000 it's a lot of money, but this is a big house. It was in a terrible state of repair, really.
It really does feel like we saved it. Well, when we bought it, had no windows, no electricity, no water. There'd been a house fire.
It has like the building has come back to life.
The final bill for buying and restoring the menagerie has come in at £430,000. But now finished with its 8 acres of land, it will be worth more than £1 million. An incredible achievement.
Did you ever have any doubts in your sort of ability as a project manager to do it?
Oh, I always doubt my ability as a project manager. Yeah, no, I always doubt that. But I probably am more confident now. I definitely have learnt a lot. And if I did another job now, I would go into it with my eyes wide open, which I probably didn't really here.
But the real value of the menagerie is the part it will play in the family's future.
What about Harry? How do you think his life's going to change growing up in a house like this?
I'm hoping that he'll spend more time outdoors.
You know, a big garden and, you know, there'll be a boat and, you know, that kind of stuff. But I've always had this idea that it's just a great place when you've got grandchildren as well. They'll always want to come. I can imagine if I was a little kid and my grandparents had a house like this, I'd want to come all the time.
I just imagine you fishing down here on a Saturday
Well, I'm
morning.
not really. I don't think fishing's my strong point, actually. I think there's evidence of that, actually, somewhere.
With no experience, attempting to project manage a very difficult historic renovation, paid for solely by a massive loan, I had to admit, had me worried. But incredibly, Jane has done it. She saved the menagerie, and I'm so glad because it's one of my favourite buildings. Richard and Jane should be very proud. They've created a stunning new home and a wonderful new life for them and their family for generations to come.
Next time, the Wilmers attempt to turn an ancient Scottish ruin into a dream home and farm.
It's turned into a right farmyard.
I'll be happy once the roof's on.
Yeah, so will I.
Yeah.